Brewed to Overflowing, a The Hobbit fanfiction, written by MrsNoggin, read aloud by SkyAsimaru. If you enjoy this podfic, you can check out the original story on Archive of Our Own. If you would like to hear more of my recordings or see some of my own work, you can find me through the pen and screen name of SkyAsimaru. Brewed to Overflowing. Summary. Thorin holds his empty vessel out imperiously.
I suppose I could try it.
It might be a little sharp or bitter across the tongue, though I suppose that's something you're quite accustomed to. Thorin's lips twist to the side, and if Bilbo isn't careful, he could mistake it for a taste of a smile. AKA the 5 times Thorin drinks Bilbo's tea, and 1 time he doesn't quite get around to drinking it. The first time. Bag End, April. The first time Bilbo makes the king under the mountain a cup of tea, he doesn't like him. Well, he doesn't know him, but he's fairly sure he won't like him if and when he does. He's too tall, and he smells like leather and sweet winter, even though the leaves outside are young and green, and the early spring flowers are still fresh and blooming. He shouldn't judge, Bilbo admits, not so quickly. But he knows he's been judged even more swiftly and probably even more harshly in return. Anyway, he makes tea, because that's what he does, even for cold-scented, fiery-tempered dwarves who stomp heavy-booted over his tiled floors and raid his pantry.
What is this?
Gosh, even his voice is fierce, a rude rumble of rocks and shale.
Tea? What do you people make tea out of?
Bilbo does not bristle at the "you people." He does bristle at the affront to Hobbitish tea, however. Whatever we like. Berries, herbs, leaves, different ingredients for different needs. He waves a hand at the delicate china teacup, held in a very indelicate hand. Fine ceramic caressed by coarse calluses. That is the finest black tea. The leaves grown down south along the Brandywine River. A dash of fresh cow's milk and a swirl of lavender honey. My absolute favorite. Invigorating for an evening's conversation and soothing for a full stomach. He doesn't quite manage to master the cut of his tone on that last bit. Still more than a little peeved at the state of his food stores. Thorin Oakenshield, dwarf king, traveler, uninvited guest, and certainly no tea connoisseur, raises the drink to his mouth once more. His beard is short enough. Another question Bilbo has, but dare not ask about. That the purse of his dark lips to the white cup curve is visible. He doesn't slurp vulgarly, like some of his fellows. He sips slowly and thoughtfully. The furrow of his brow eases as he deliberates.
Brandywine black tea leaves.
His mouth curves downwards in a lip-shrugging movement of acceptance. The second time. Between Rivendell and the mountain passes, June. The soil in the valley away from Rivendell is rich and luscious beneath his feet. and Bilbo finds some early elderflowers in a patch of brush and bramble near their camp. They must manage to catch the sun most of the day, and they have grown keenly. The light fragrance cheers him immediately, and he eagerly fills his pockets. Bombur very kindly lends him a small metal pot after dinner, and happily shares the collected and prepared water, curious about Bilbo's task. "The flowers are excellent for a sore throat, and sweet as anything," Bilbo teaches. "You can make a cordial, or even a tincture. We drink a lot of elderflower wine over the summer in Hobbiton, and my neighbour down the lane uses it on her face. As a water, not a wine, mind you."
"Don't think we get many elderflowers up in the mountains,"
Bombur muses.
"Unless I can cook with it, my knowledge isn't up to much, I'm afraid."
"Well, you can definitely cook with the berries. Sweets and fritters and pies and all sorts. Though I'm using the leaves mostly this evening. Most of the flowers aren't quite ready. Absolutely splendid for aches and pains. It'll help that twist of Beaver's ankle if he'll drink some." It wouldn't do to be trying to climb the mountain paths with a sore foot, after all. The dwarves all wear such big boots, a strange thing for Bilbo to even comprehend. But somehow Beaver had still managed to stumble and sprain his ankle. Hobbits have magnificent support in the form of their large and steady feet. But Bilbo still knows from experience such an injury can last a long while when walked heavily upon.
"So, you crush the leaves, or just boil them?"
Bombur isn't taking notes, but he is clearly lodging all the information into his memory. "I shall just let these steep in the hot water for a long while with these few brave flowers, then strain as best I can and hope no one minds a stray twig or two." Beaver takes his medicinal tea gratefully, with a pleasant grumble and a pat on Bilbo's shoulder. He has his boots off, chunky knitted socks on show where he rests his feet on a log by the campfire. Bilbo finds himself looking at them curiously, not having much experience himself with socks in general. The dwarf's feet are small, to his eyes anyway, like those of men, dainty toes and a delicate arch. Bilbo thinks he would protect them with such heavy armor if they were his too. Contrarily, though, their hands are tougher than Bilbo's, especially those of Dwalin, battle-hewn, tattooed, and scarred. The king, too, has heft to his hold. Prominent, hair-kissed knuckles, pockmarks of old injuries, a dark smudge at the base of his thumb that may be a bruise, but may also just be dirt. His nails are broad, unmanicured, but still tidy, functional. Bilbo wonders if his touch is warm, if the skin is rough and would catch at his own, or cradle it. Unlike Beaver, Thorin, when Bilbo offers to pour a helping of tea into his cup, is less than receptive. He looks at him from the corner of his eye with icy disdain.
"What is it?"
Is he simple? Perhaps still just incredibly rude. Bilbo tips his head to one side and keeps his sarcastic tone to himself somehow.
"A tea. Oh, really?"
Thorin looks at him like he's the idiot.
"Smells elvish,"
he grunts.
"Doubtless so do you, after so long in their gracious hospitality."
Bilbo can't help but snark back. He takes pleasure in the dark ridge of eyebrow dipped his way.
Anyway, no, this is Hobbit tea. Elder, if you'd rather go without, I'd be happy to tip your portion into my own.
Thorin holds his empty vessel out imperiously.
I suppose I could try it. It might be a little sharp or bitter across the tongue, though I suppose that's something you're quite accustomed to.
Thorin's lips twist to the side, and if Bilbo isn't careful, he could mistake it for a taste of a smile. The third time. Bjorn's house, July. Bilbo still doesn't really like Thorin. He respects him, he understands him somewhat, and he admires him a little. He's rather sure Thorin doesn't like him either, but perhaps his toleration of him is becoming less of an effort these days. Whereas Bilbo had initially suspected their cultures to be the main issue at the start, he has since come to realize their problem may simply be personality. He gets on just fine, rather merrily, in fact, with several other members of the party. While he still feels he's being made fun of occasionally, now, most of the time, he also feels part of the fun, too. His opinion is often asked, his comfort taken into consideration, his stories requested, and his presence rarely forgotten. No longer does a dwarf suddenly recall his existence and turn to check if the Hobbit is still there, because they are walking beside Bilbo and talking with him, or indeed sitting with him on the raised porch that runs alongside Bjorn's house, and watching the bees buzz busily about the flowers like Fili is now.
Do they get drunk on the nectar, do you reckon?
Fili asks.
Look at that one, bumbling about.
In deference to the delightful warmth of the sun, the young dwarf has shed several of his layers, and Bilbo can even see a glimpse of pale skin here and there by Fili's collar as he moves. It feels almost scandalous after so long of them all being hidden by studded leather and fur. Bilbo wonders if dwarfs are always so covered, even at home. It would be rude to ask, though. Instead, he replies,
They even sometimes have a little nap in the flower when they've finished with it. I find them in my roses, curled up between the petals.
Fili grins.
A boozy snooze in the sun. Nice. What a life.
Thorin, perched ahead of them on the edge of the wooden platform, turns his head. His eyes on them are not fierce, but Bilbo fancies he looks at least partly annoyed. Their conversation must seem inane to one with such worries as he. They likely irritate him with their light-hearted nonsense. He had been out here first, his back to the door as he gazed silently over the fields below, when Bilbo and Fili had emerged and taken their seats on the too-tall bench against the wall. Maybe he had come out to be alone, and they are intruding. Bilbo looks down at the cup of tea he is holding, still too hot to drink. It's a mug rather than a cup, though it looks more like a cauldron in his now tiny-seeming hands. He wonders if he should leave again, let Thorin have his piece to Brewed. Apparently a full-time occupation for him. Fili has no such qualms. He simply tips his head back to the wall and closes his eyes, staying right where he is. The sight brings a smile to Bilbo's face. It's so good to see these boys relaxed again. The floor doesn't creak as Bilbo stands, made for heavier loads than he. His tread is silent, but Thorin still senses his movement, his shoulders creeping up an inch and his weight shifting, ready to react. To what is unclear. A swift attack from behind, perhaps. Bilbo wishes for a moment that he, too, could relax like his nephews. And that makes his decision. He swings to the left of his intended path slightly, pauses beside Thorin, and holds out his mug. Thorin's eyebrow is already raised as he turns his head. He is also wearing fewer layers than usual in the summer sun. From his angle of beside and above, Bilbo can spy the triangle open at the neck of his shirt, all the way down to the hollow of his throat. His skin is a beautiful tanned shade for one who so rarely sees the sun. A delicate lace of chest hair edging out beneath the embroidered opening of dark linen. It feels exotic and shocking to see in an oddly pleasant way. Blinking away his surprise before it shows on his face, Bilbo clears his throat. I haven't drunk from it, and I shall just go and pour another. I brewed a whole pot, and it's a rather large pot.
What is it?
Thorin's voice is gruffer even than normal, as if they are the first words spoken today. They may well be.
Tea.
Thorin closes his eyes and takes a long, frustrated breath through his nostrils, completely missing Bilbo's pleasure at his own smart arsery.
I am aware of it. Burglar, you are...
He makes a clear effort to control his tone.
May I ask what kind of tea? I'm still only familiar with dwarvish spice brews, and the 2 Hobbit teas I have tried.
He really is trying not to snap, not to be rough and surly. Bilbo rewards him with a smile and drops to a crouch beside him. This is very different. I had a pleasant rummage around Bjorn's pantry earlier. Dried passion flower and fresh lavender, and so much honey your teeth will ache sweetly for a quarter hour at least. A nice relaxing holiday blend to soften and unwind with, if you will.
I will not.
It's not a snap, but it's not far off. Well, what on earth else have you to do at this moment? Gandalf is off goodness knows where, and we are set to entertain ourselves until he returns. You've already reorganized what few supplies and equipment we have left. Having a little holiday is about all we are able to do. Drink the tea. There is a snort from behind them. Philly apparently in full approval of the scalding. Thorin, oddly chastened, is still hesitant and careful when he receives the mug, but he gives a regal nod of gratitude, full eye contact, and a slow dip of chin. He takes the rim as Bilbo has hold of the handle. His large, solid hand arches over the top. Firm grip with strong fingertips, easily taking the cup despite the size of it. Then he cradles it with both hands and full care to inhale its vapor.
A similar sort to your others?
The lavender and honey may ring familiar, but the rest not at all. Bilbo rises to head inside and fetch himself a fresh cup. On his journey upwards, he glances a glimpse down Thorin's shirt again. This time he is blessed with a movement of his arms, shifting the fabric, the sunlight kissing away the shadow beneath a collarbone. The odd feeling in his belly is annoyance, he tells himself, at the ungrateful wretch now drinking his tea. The fourth time. Mirkwood, September. Thorin is not doing too well. It's not surprising. He's never struck Bilbo as one who would make a content prisoner, or even someone who could relax doing very little. He spends his days pacing, or sat with his back to the wall and his head knocking rhythmically against it. Maybe he gains some comfort from the impact of bone to stone, but it's quite distressing to witness. He had been so forlorn and stir-crazy with his time confined alone that he had at first written Bilbo's initial frantic whisper off as a wishful whistle of wind. He has some sort of paranoia about paranoia, and took a little convincing that he had not actually lost his marbles, and truly was seeing the friend he thought he had lost days and days ago in the blasted forest. Now, late in the evening, Thorin picks cautiously at the provided prisoner rations, still insisting on examining each morsel thoroughly before allowing it near his mouth. He picks apart the bread with grubby yet precise fingers, feeling for goodness only knows what in the dough, before carefully feeding it between his lips. He strokes the shiny red skin of an apple, investigating a small dent in the smooth surface, digging his fingertips in at one end and thumbs at the other, and ripping the whole fruit in half to see inside before crunching into it. Bilbo takes a minute to break out of his fascination, almost forgetting why he is here. He shuffles himself up to the heavy wooden bars of the door and presents his gift proudly.
"Burglar! I was not expecting to see you again until the morning."
Thorin is not displeased. In fact, he seems so very glad to see Bilbo, disregarding his plate and heading straight over.
"What's this? No, do not dare reply tea. I can clearly see that."
Bilbo smiles cheekily, pleased Thorin is beginning to appreciate his humor.
"Peppermint? No lavender honey?"
It's a tease. Bilbo might even dare call it a fond one.
"Just not good enough."
"I shall take it back, I swear." Thorin grabs at the cup, a handleless clay beaker, as if Bilbo is serious about carrying out the threat. His strong fingers wrap over Bilbo's grip, rough calluses catching at the delicate skin between his fingers as they slip into the gaps.
"Oh, your hands are cold, Thorin."
Bilbo is appalled.
"Luckily I have something to warm them up on now. I do thank you, Master Baggins, and I bid you tell me all about the merits of your peppermint tea."
Bilbo can't quite tell if he's truly interested or just so bored and lonely he'll listen to anything. But he tells him anyway. How peppermint is for lifting your mood, dispelling melancholia, and then he curls a small smile and explains it's also for waking the brain and narrowing focus, stimulating senses and speeding thought. "Just the thing," he says, dipping his tone even lower, secret and conspiratorial. loving how Thorin leans in closer to listen hard until his head presses into the bars. Just the thing for a hobbit and a dwarf, concocting an excellent and devious escape plan. Now I found these trap doors. The 5th time, Erebor, November. It's love, Bilbo realizes too late. He is head over heels, arse over tit, completely gone for Thorin Oakenshield. Not even platonic love or brotherly love, no. Romantic, self-sacrificial, I would spend my whole life with you, but also die for one single kiss sort of love. And now it's too late. Bilbo leans all his weight onto Thorin's chest, tries with all his might to hold his insides inside and not let his life run over the ice like spilled red wine. "No, no, Thorin, don't you dare!" he huffs, looking around frantically. Someone must be coming. Someone. Anyone. "I would take back my words and deeds at the gate," Thorin had rasped some moments ago, desperate to let him know and brave enough to say it. A steady rock of courage, even in sight of his own death. "I was too blind to see." "So was I," Bilbo should have said. "Take back nothing, for I have loved you through it all. Every peril, every day, every moment." He looks down upon that face now, the face he has seen so much of over the last year, and yet not enough of at all. That familiar, strong, stubborn jaw, the sardonic arch of brow, the sultry sweep of dark eyelashes. He could be carved from the mountain himself, sculpted and chased painstakingly from the rock and cliff. Except his life is not endless. He will not survive millennia, and Bilbo just can't stand it. "Don't suppose there is a tea for this?" Thorin's laugh is a rattling gasp, blood trickling from the corner of his lips. "I will make you all the tea you could ever want if you just live." Some time later. 'Tis not quite Brandywine Blackleaf." The fond teasing is quite possibly the most beautiful sound Bilbo has ever heard, and he straightens the cup he had been gently tipping against previously slack lips. Thorin's voice is a gravelled shadow of its former self, but it is his, and he is finally awake and here. Bilbo wants to cry, but quite frankly, he's done enough of that over the last couple of days, and a hobbit has to have some dignity. "A healing brew," he murmurs, gently placing the shallow cup on the hospital table. "Owen tried to slip something else into it, but I caught him in time. I shan't have my tea tampered with." Thorin hasn't opened his eyes, but his mouth curls into an exhausted smile. "Never, not the tea. Tell me more, Master Burglar." Bilbo's voice shakes, but neither of them mention it. Thorin doesn't mention anything at all. In fact, Bilbo isn't even sure he's still awake. But nevertheless, he rambles as requested. "We have nettle to help replenish and balance the blood, chamomile to relax sore muscles, rosehip to soothe pain and any bruises. We hobbits have teas for everything, you know.
Berries in the summer, and ginger and cinnamon at Yule. It must be Yuletide soon. I wonder if the winter has descended yet in the Shire. Much tea will be drunk when the weather dips and the merrymaking begins. Spiced apple to warm the body, elderberry and echinacea for the sniffles, yellow desert spice for a little too much mead the night before, even valerian to calm the worries. I needed that one, seeing you in the battle.
Ah, so he is still conscious. Bilbo humps.
I did all right for myself. You should not have been there at all.
How he manages to sound angry when he's half asleep is a mystery and a skill that may be unique to this one dwarf alone. A smoky rumble of ire and exasperation that Bilbo has never been gladder to hear.
Oh, I was saving you, you absolute cabbage! I saw you fight.
Thorin smiles again, indulgent.
A vicious little beast. Impressive, even if you have all the sense of a brick. You do say the sweetest things.
Bilbo is not even offended. He's far too happy to be offended. Even half dead, Thorin is back to himself. He recalls those days before the battle, the unease, the dread, the way the king always dwelt in darkness. Bleak shadows cast long and deep over his cheeks, under the ridge of his forehead, leaving two keen eyes glimmering in the gloom. Bilbo realizes now that his own sadness at the time had already been grief at the loss of his friend, his...
What are you thinking to feel so melancholy? The whole room has gone cold with it.
Thorin cracks open one eye, crusted and bloodshot, though still blinding blue. Brave and foolish, Bilbo takes Thorin's bruised hand in his own, runs the side of his thumb over the cracked and broken knuckles, admires the strength in the weight of it. A deep breath, a gentle squeeze, a whispered, "I missed you." One more time. Erebor, Yuletide. Erebor no longer smells of fire and death. It's cool rock and spice and metal. Dwarves are efficient, troops running like a well-oiled machine, clearing and cleaning and repairing. Every day, more people arrive, moving in and helping out. Industries are being rebuilt. Homes are being recreated. A whole community has begun to thrive once more. Outside, though, up high and open, Bilbo can breathe the fresh air, taste the scent of rain and wind and sunshine. His rooms don't have their own windows or balcony, but he is down the corridor from the royal terrace, and he takes advantage of it often. Every free moment he has. It's late in the year, the sweet white sunlight of winter glimmering in the heavy, moist air. But Bilbo has enough layers now to barely feel it. Heavy linens and luxurious wools. A rich, fur-lined cloak. They've taken a little adjusting to fit, but Erebor even has tailors now.
Burglar, it is cold.
Bilbo turns to see the king approach. He too wears new clothes, but they are also simple. No trailing robes or precious accoutrements. Black and navy fabrics, silver detailing. His boots are still heavy and practical. He carries his sword. His hands bear cuts and bruises and scuffed knuckles from the restoration work he insists on doing alongside his more courtly duties. The only signifier of his rank, apart from his regal bearing, obviously, is the simple mithril crown nestled into his hair. No gold. He should really fight the way Thorin calls him burglar. Except it no longer retains the meaning it once had. It's an affectionate nickname now, used only by one. It feels private and close and intimate, and Bilbo secretly adores it. He is not above taking what tiny pleasures he can, where he can. Thorin sits beside him on the stone bench that runs along the back wall of the terrace and looks down into the valley. After a few minutes of companionable silence, he asks quietly and concernedly,
"Do you still find it stifling in the city?"
"I find I am becoming accustomed to it," Bilbo replies honestly. "But hobbits are outdoor creatures. Even the invalided and infirm take doses of fresh air and countryside often. I can't spend all my time in there, especially not on a day like today."
"Ah, yes."
Thorin gives a start as if suddenly remembering something, and rummages around in his pockets, of which he has several.
"Here, merry Yuletide, Master Burglar."
In his large hand he bears forth a smart brown paper bag, folded at the top and fastened with string. It hasn't suffered any injury from being in his pocket, and Bilbo wonders for a second if it had only just been popped in there, Thorin rushing to find him and hand it over. The idea warms him inside, perhaps more than the idea of a Yuletide gift.
"Oh, for me?" "I am not overly familiar with Hobbit traditions, but small indulgences are gifted during the period of Yule, are they not?"
Bilbo is so touched it's ridiculous. He can feel his face flaming, overwhelmed tears spiking at the corners of his eyes at the idea of Thorin not only researching Hobbit customs, but acting upon them. He blinks hard and reaches for the parcel. It looks small in Thorin's hand, held easily between fingers and thumb. When he places it in Bilbo's grasp, he takes the time to curl Bilbo's cold fingers around it, securing his grip as if the cargo is precious. The touch is gentle and warm, and Bilbo values it at least as much as the present itself.
"What is it?"
Thorin grins, a gleeful flash of teeth, a light-hearted huff from his throat. His voice remembers the lilt of Bilbo's cheeky tones splendidly as he fires back.
"Tea."
Bilbo gives him a nudge of his elbow to the ribs, snorting an answering laugh. The string is tied fast, but he manages to lever out a corner of the paper so he can raise the bag to his nose and sniff curiously.
This smells,
He turns wide-eyed to the dwarf beside him, takes in the eager smile and searching gaze.
Is this Brandywine Blackleaf?"
His tone is indulgent and so very pleased with himself.
Your favorite. How did you know? You told me the first time we met.
Bilbo has to look away. He's smiling so hard. It's practically disgusting.
Well, yes, but I meant, how did you get it? Sometimes knowing a thief and a smuggler is not a bad thing.
Thorin sits forward suddenly, hand to Bilbo's arm.
It's not stolen. I just used Nori and his contacts to procure it and get it this far away from the Shire.
I didn't get you anything.
'Tis not our custom,
he reassures, squeezing Bilbo's forearm lightly.
Would you make some to drink now?
Oh, of course! Bilbo rises immediately, catching Thorin's hand and tugging him to stand too, pulling him along back towards the corridor leading to his room. I have a kettle and pot in my room. Ideally, he would put milk in it, but Bilbo isn't dragging them down to the kitchens to raid the stores. Brewing tea in his room, cozy by the fire with his familiar chairs and the shaggy sheepskin rug under his feet. Thorin up close in his personal space. That sounds like the perfect Yule to him. However, it won't be quite the same without something to sweeten it.
Oh!
Thorin stops in his tracks, rummages around in his pockets.
That reminds me.
So many pockets. Eventually he locates what he's searching for in a pouch on his belt.
This, too.
A tiny jar, probably only a few teaspoons worth. Thick glass and a dainty metal lid. The golden liquid reflects the flickering flame of the lit brazier beside them. Thorin's voice is a whisper, rumbling and low.
Lavender honey.
Some time later. The water boils all too quickly over his fire, and before long Bilbo pours it over leaves in the pot and sets it to brew on the small table between his chairs. Thorin is still inspecting the books stacked up on the old desk Bilbo has set up in the corner. They are all from the city library, mostly untouched by dragonfire, and are mainly tomes detailing the history of Erebor. Bilbo has had little time to read for pleasure, with all the duties he has taken on helping the organization of rebuilding the kingdom. After a couple of minutes of thorough inspection, Bilbo realizes he may have made an error.
I hope I'm not overstepping, borrowing those. I know you are all very secretive about your ways, but I was hoping to find some useful— Will you stay?
Thorin interrupts abruptly, cringing a little as he realizes he has done so. His gaze is still on the book in his hand, opened to what appears to be an entirely random page. The volume is balanced evenly in his hand, the spine resting comfortably in his palm. It's the question at the forefront of Bilbo's mind, every hour of every day. It's more complicated than he'd ever imagined it could be. It's no longer just about missing home or not missing home enough. It's about what he can live with and live without, about the measure of pain and longing that he can cope with, having the one thing he wants from life in front of him, close but not ever quite close enough.
I don't think I can, he finally manages. I'll look into moving on after the spring thaw. Oh.
Thorin turns away, not meeting Bilbo's eyes for even a moment.
I suppose, yes, it must be unbearable, stuck underground here for one such as you. And home always calls, pulls at the soul.
He would know, clearly, but it's not even that. Not anymore. Bilbo struggles for his words.
There are things I want that I can't have. Alas, I cannot bring the Shire to you.
He sounds as though he would if he could, though. Move an actual world. Shift mountains, yank rivers over hills, and fold fields through forests for Bilbo.
That's not what I want.
The tea hasn't brewed for long enough, but Bilbo needs to move, to bustle about and do something that isn't having this conversation. He fusses around with teacups and tiny silver spoons, peers into the pot as if the tea might have suddenly become ready. Thorin's deep voice bursts out as though it has fought its way from his lungs, possibly against his will.
Well, I want you to stay.
Not dropping the pot is a feat Bilbo only just manages. It slips in his grip and he saves it at the last moment, a splat of liquid spilling impolitely from the spout onto the table. He looks up at Thorin in shock. Bilbo knows, of course, that his friends want him around and would be sad for a while to see him leave. But he wasn't aware the feelings were quite that substantial. Thorin is embarrassed by his outburst, his cheeks warm and his hands shaking. But he looks hard at Bilbo, unshy.
I am too selfish to just let you leave.
Well, I'm afraid I'm too selfish to stay. It would be agony, spending the rest of his life living alongside the other half of his soul, but unable to even say so, let alone share love with him. No, leaving is his only choice. Defeat is carved into Thorin's features, but somehow also defiance.
How can I? What must I do to keep you with me?
This king will always fight for what he wants, Bilbo realizes. Will never give up. An honorable trait, but often inconvenient, and altogether exasperating. He looks away, down at the splash of liquid on the scarred surface of the table, gives a bitter laugh.
Fall in love with me? What?
A harsh whisper, astounded, disbelieving. Oh, can he pretend he didn't say that? Can he take it back? Ruining his friendship with Thorin before he left wasn't something Bilbo intended. Oh, him and his big mouth. What an abysmal blockhead. Sense of a brick indeed. The awful silence grows, broken only by a crackle in the fireplace and a boorish door slam echoing down the corridor outside.
Never mind that.
Bilbo forces a smile, clearly false and brittle, but enough to change the subject, he's sure.
Let's not. I have been in love with you since the very beginning.
It's another abrupt discharge of words, growled powerfully into the air between them.
I don't understand,
Bilbo breathes shakily as Thorin stalks toward him, intense and severe. His face is all indignation, but his touch when he reaches for Bilbo's cheek is far from it. tender and careful. His fingertips graze along Bilbo's cheekbone, tracing it beneath the skin, palm cupping at his jaw. Bilbo feels the touch all the way down to his toes, sparkles in his nerves, heat curling in his belly.
I fought it at first,
Thorin explains, hushed, his expression softening.
And then, obviously, I hid it as best I could. Though I'm fairly certain you are the only one who hasn't yet realized. Do you think I'd trust anyone like I do you? Share all I have with them like I do you?
Bilbo is listening, but it's difficult. His eyes are drawn to those in front of him. Ice and fire and a glint of warming silver. Thorin's gaze roves his face, his eyes, his lips. There is no smile to accompany Thorin's words. He is deadly serious.
I share my meals with you. I have given you rooms in my royal quarters. I gifted you treasure in the midst of dragon sickness, brought you tea from 1,000 miles away. My favorite honey.
It's all true. Food from Thorin's kitchens, even from his plate, all find their way to Bilbo's stomach. It means something to hobbits, the sharing of food. Bilbo wonders if Thorin is conscious of it, if his apparent research had covered that. Thorin's touch shifts from Bilbo's cheek to his chin, holding it gently between his thumb and the side of his finger.
I fought the peace of encroaching death because you asked me to. You love me?
It doesn't seem possible. Not the love that Bilbo wants, needs. But maybe, perhaps.
I'm going to kiss you now, burglar.
Bilbo doesn't close his eyes, not until the last moment, so he gets to see Thorin draw closer. The black streak of his eyelashes flutter shut. The light freckles across the sharp bridge of his nose come into focus at the final second. And then his lips are upon Bilbo's, his tenderness softening the fine, hard line of them into silk-cushioned plushness. A tickle of air from his exhale caresses Bilbo's face, the release carrying with it a huff of a groan. The sound alone whips the strength from Bilbo's legs, and he grabs out, catching hold of Thorin's arms.
Oh! Burglar?
Thorin doesn't pull back far, just enough to check in.
I'm fine. Don't stop.
The curve of his smile skims Bilbo's mouth.
Did you? Bilbo, are you weak at the knees?
Oh, don't you dare, you great turnip under the mountain.
The smack he gives him isn't serious, not at all.
One kiss and you... Oh.
Bilbo interrupts his teasing with a kiss of his own, pulling their bodies closer and raising up on his toes to crowd into his space. The scent of Thorin is stronger this close, all spice and metal, and Bilbo hungers for it, pushing the eager kiss a little more frantic. He reaches for Thorin's hair, weaves his fingers through the soft thickness of it, feels the warmth of his scalp against his fingertips.
Burglar,
Thorin manages amidst presses of mouth, tugs of lip, and a cheeky roll of his tongue between Bilbo's teeth.
Bilbo, could you stay?
with me here. Yes.
It's not a difficult question anymore. Nothing has ever seemed easier.
You could have the whole royal terrace. I will build you a garden out there to plant however you care. And I'll open up windows in the mountain walls so you can fill our rooms with flowers too. We'll keep bees out on the farms and grow berry bushes along the roads. And we can drink tea at all hours and have 3 breakfasts and 7 dinners.
Bilbo laughs into Thorin's mouth, bites gently at his bottom lip, and sucks it between his own. Thorin's hand is solid at the back of his neck, and he tips back onto it, trusting it to hold his weight.
Thorin, I said yes. You don't have to convince me. I'm not convincing you. I'm just promising. You're just sweet, is what you are.
Thorin looks suitably revolted at being called sweet, but his grimace turns swiftly back into a smile, a flash of white teeth and crinkle of eye, as Bilbo presses his lips to the soft grain of beard beside his mouth and whispers,
"Like honey."
The end.
Thank you for reading. Please drop by the archive and let the author know what you thought of their work.